Growing up, my parents made me go to church. They were loving parents, and my dad's side of the family was very religious, but I didn't get it. I just went because they made me go. Growing up, I loved sports, baseball, football, hockey. But then at the age of 12, I was bullied into smoking marijuana and drinking alcohol for the first time. I was scared and didn't ever want to do it again, but then all the cool kids were doing it, so I thought, why not? I continued to make those choices and the sports were gone. I would try when I would go to church with my parents to turn my life around the next day, knowing what I was doing was wrong, but I just couldn't do it. Instead of playing hockey at the Coliseum, I was going to all the rock concerts in the 80s, continuing to make wrong decisions and hanging out with the wrong crowd. And this went on for years. When I met Nikki, in 1992, we had a child shortly after, September of 93. Matthew was born. And I thought then I could get control of my life and quit partying and doing all the drugs I was into. But I just couldn't give it up. Hanging out with my friends, smoking marijuana, and drinking was what I wanted to do, instead of being a father and later on a husband in my life. In 1999, Bryan Jr. was born. I thought then I could give up and start following Jesus and going to church regularly, but it just didn't happen. Church was just like for me, I would force my kids to go, and I was only doing it for them. I just couldn't get control of my life. In 2011, going to church one Sunday, I ran into an old childhood friend. He asked me how I was doing, and I gave him the wrong answer and told him just fine. But he knew better. And he asked me to start coming to church every Sunday instead of just once a month. And so I did. And I brought my wife and 2 kids to church. But I cried every time I would go because I was so guilty from what I did the night before. I cheated on my wife, and I just couldn't take the guilt anymore and went back to my dad's church where I grew up and sat down with the pastor and spilled my guts. Told him everything from the age of 12 all the way up to 35. He told me that Jesus Christ died on the cross for all those things that I did, and it was okay. It was gonna be okay. And so we prayed together, and for the first time, I felt like maybe I could get control over my life. I sat Nikki down, I confessed to her everything in front of the pastor, and we started going to church every Sunday. But I just could not stop partying. I didn't want to. I was enjoying it too much, so I thought. So running into my friend at church, and he looked at me and said, "You're gonna die if you don't stop what you're doing." So after a dozen times him asking me, I went with him to celebrate recovery, June 12th of 2012. For the first time in my life, I felt the Holy Spirit. I cried my eyes out, but I also felt hope for the first time that I wasn't alone. I wasn't the only one doing drugs and alcohol and cheating on my wife. There was others in the room that were sharing in small group the same struggles I was dealing with. I knew it was time. And slowly I started sobering up. Slowly I started handing everything over to God. Because it took me 20 years to get to that point, thinking I can stop this. I can stop when Matt's born. I can stop when Bryan was born. I can stop when I get married. I never did. So Jesus stepped into my life because I would turn things over to him every single Tuesday, no matter what I did the week before. And it slowly got better. Instead of walking into church, feeling guilty and crying in pain, I was crying in tears of happiness because I finally had joy. I finally had Jesus Christ in my life, and I was having a relationship with him that was never happening years before going to church every Sunday with my parents and once a month with my family. You asked me 4 years ago when this all started, would I be able to do something like this? Never. I would have laughed. I am blessed beyond my years. I love helping people out just by being honest, my integrity, telling them what I've been through, and telling them there's hope in Jesus Christ. If you just give your life over, He will change you.